I recently played the point-and-click, side-scrolling adventure game Tales of the Neon Sea for the first time, something I picked up for free on Epic Games, mainly because I just saw the words cats and robots and thought, hey, those are cool. I don't usually play this type of game, so I didn't expect much overall, but as I got farther and farther through it, I began to realize that Tales of the Neon Sea is about so much more than what it may seem from the outside. Despite reviews and interviews I have seen for this game often pushing aside the plot in favor of mainly mentioning the gameplay and visuals, I think that it deserves a lot more mention. Not just because it's a cool game about a cyborg detective investigating murders, but that behind that main story, there are lots of deeper themes in here that offer players more food for thought if they can just take the time to notice them. So today, I'd like to share some of these themes that I personally found while playing Tales of the Neon Sea to provide a different perspective than any I have seen about this title thus far. I'll try to be vague whenever possible to help keep any surprises intact if you haven't played the game yet, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about spoilers. First, some context for those who aren't familiar. What is the game about? Well, you play as 38-year-old detective Rex Mist, who lives in the cyberpunk future of year 2140. He's far from his prime back when he was an accomplished police officer, having left that job after an incident made him gravely injured. To save his life, he had many organs and body parts replaced by technology, making him a cyborg. And he's able to use his robotic eyes to help him investigate crime scenes. So after his cat finds a corpse in an alleyway, one mystery leads to another until Rex discovers that he is ultimately chasing down the same serial killer that he had never managed to catch years ago, the same one who caused his injuries. You progress through the story with conversation and a variety of different puzzles. During the beginning, there's a lot of mystery behind everything to keep you thinking, but it wasn't until later on that I began to pick up on a subtle, yet perhaps the largest overarching theme of this entire game. And I'll get to what I think that is very soon. I really wanted to see if there were any interviews with the game creators that might explore or explain this further, but unfortunately there is currently little content out there about the game's plot. So to be clear, all I can share is my own opinions, nothing that has been explicitly stated by the creators. To start, some smaller, more obvious themes are shown through the world that Rex lives in. As you go through the story, you will learn bits and pieces of history about a war between humans and robots that makes relations between them somewhat strained to this day. There are tensions in the city because a robot is now running for mayor, since there's remaining racism against robots from the war. Robots are so individual that they even have their own religions. And in this, there are, as with many futuristic stories, some elements of whether or not we might go too far with technology and what it can do. But it's not shoved in your face, and that's really the nice thing about these themes. They merely enhance the adventure story that the player goes through as Rex, only adding more layers instead of just trying to purely be a commentary on tech, robo-racism, or even mental struggles. These things make the story so much better, but you can still enjoy the story without diving into it as much as I chose to. Because beyond what we find in the world building of this robot-filled city, there are far more themes in Tales of the Neon Sea that I found. For my biggest example, I think that there are a lot of themes about desperation throughout the game, what lengths someone will go to get what they want. And though I didn't begin to notice it until much farther along, this theme starts very close to the beginning. It's somewhat hidden, a series of optional conversations that Rex can overhear in the streets. A man named Philip is so desperate to hang on to his dying dog that he wants to make a digital copy of its consciousness. Yet, once he has the file and a digital version of his precious pet is pain-free and playing inside an electronic device, Philip doesn't feel any better. Yes, the dog is no longer suffering, but it has done nothing to help Philip move on from the emotional pain that he himself was experiencing. In fact, seeing his dog out of reach from him forever could be making it worse. When you have that starting context for hasty desperation gone wrong, it makes the stories Rex discovers later on that actually influence the main plot of the Tales of the Neon Sea all the more clear and impactful. It's not just a random NPC thing. You start to see, why would someone harm other people? Why would they side with the killer when they've always been a good guy? Why would they become a killer too? Because it's the only way to save a loved one? To save themselves? To appease their god? because they're so driven with desperation that they trick themselves into believing that their crimes are justified and that the death of others is deserved. Everything in the game may visually be 2D, but the plot is anything but flat, that's for sure. For some lighter themes, since that was all more heavy, there is another aspect with the hero and how he reflects the opposite of those desperate villains. Rex never seems particularly desperate himself. He's a casual guy, hands always in his pockets. It's evident he may have a bit of depression, but once he regains a purpose through the plot of the story, that aspect of his character goes away for the most part, so he's not just apathetic either. Instead, he remains level-headed and grows more steady overall, while his opponents go in the opposite direction. From the start of the game to the end, you get a sense that Rex has perhaps become more positive and friendly to other people. Even if it's not the most obvious, there's a lot of development with him. And even aside from his development, just in who he is, it was clever to make our hero in a world where there is tension between humans and robots, basically a mix of the two. Someone who bridges the gap and gives the same amount of respect to both when helping them out. He never picks a side, and the two different halves of Rex both offer personal benefits and challenges. It's a great way the writers used the setting to bring a lot more meaning to the characters. Tales of the Neon Sea is about perseverance, pain, desperation, justice. It's even a game about finding new family, if you really get into it. The real puzzle isn't what we work through on screen, but what you do in your mind as you unpack the villain's motivations and Rex's own development. And I think that's just as fun as the actual puzzles in the game. I think Tales of the Neon Sea was a great experience, especially in this world building and the character themes that I really wish I saw more people also discover and mention. So I really just hoped to share that there's so much more to this little game than most people advertise. If you've played the game before, I'd love for you to comment if you picked up on any of these themes. Did you think the story was good, or was it too complicated or too overshadowed by the gameplay? And what are some other games that you think are deeper than generally perceived? Thank you so much for watching. If you want to subscribe, I put out lots of videos like this exploring video game content. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. It helps me know what kind of videos you like seeing from me. But no matter what, most of all, I just want you to have a very groovy day. Peace out.